In this video, I'll show you the 3 ways that I'll be transforming my running to get faster this year. But first, here's what you're gonna need to do the same. A fresh pair of shoes that you're ready to shred through, and 1 pair of sunnies that make you go really fast. And you're also gonna need a calendar. I'll explain this one. So here are all the races that I did this year. Not many, right? Now let's compare that to Jakob Ingebrigtsen's race calendar from last year, and you can definitely see a big difference. 20 races in 1 year. And that doesn't even include the beer mile that he did at his bachelor party. But I'll count that one as an unofficial race result. So why is he racing so much? Well, it's pretty simple. If you want to get better at racing, you have to race. It seems pretty obvious when you put it that way, right? So here's the first thing that I'll be doing to get faster this year, and that's filling this calendar with races. My biggest mistake last year was a lack of preparation. I wanted to do way more races last year, but I didn't give myself enough time to plan and prepare for these races to get new PBs. So this first step is to plan our entire year. Yep, that's right, the entire year. And I guarantee that Jakob does the same because he writes his own training programs, or as he put it. It's very important for runners that want to be good to take part in their training program, as everybody needs to understand the basics. So here's what you're gonna do. Pick 2 races that you wanna be in peak fitness for this year and make sure they're pretty far apart. For me, for example, I picked a marathon in July, see you on the Gold Coast, guys, and also a half marathon in December. This gives me plenty of time to do very specific training, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. Okay, so once you've got your 2 goal races, you're gonna count back from that race day 16 weeks back. And we're gonna label this 16-week block our specific training phase. So in my case, I'll be starting in the 2nd week of March, my 16-week block, to finish on the 7th of July for my marathon. And 16 weeks is plenty of time to get in peak marathon shape or peak half marathon shape, whatever your goal is. And looking now, I'm still 3 months away from that specific training phase. I wonder what I'm gonna do in that time. Stick around in the video to find out. So the next step is where filling our calendar comes in. The best way to get good at races is simply put by racing. So to use myself as an example, I'll have my goal race marathon in July. And then 6 weeks prior to that, I'll have a half marathon. And 4 weeks prior to that, I'll have a 10K. And a couple of weeks before that, I'll have a couple of 5Ks too. Now, doing a few races in the lead up to a goal race does a couple of things for you. Well, firstly, it keeps running fun because racing is fun and you should do as much as you can. But it also helps to address the big mistake that most people make when preparing for a race, including myself. So here's what it is. One mistake that I've made in the past is not doing any training faster than my goal race pace. And the result of this is that on race day, my race pace felt unsustainable and really aggressive. So by spending some time early in the block working on faster speeds at shorter distances, we can help to maintain this for the last couple of weeks of the training block so that you're ready to smash it on race day, just like Jakob. So sign up to those races that you want to do and get some new 2024 PBs. Comment below what your goal races are. I'd love to hear what you're all up to. All right, so we have the general outline of our year, but to understand this next way to get faster, we're gonna have to talk about this guy. This is Hal Hidden. Hal Higden is an absolute G. Not only did he run 111 marathons, 4 of which he won, by the way, he's also been creating training programs for athletes for years. Actually, no, not years, decades. He ran a 14:59 5K barefoot, which is insane. And he also ran a 2:21 marathon in his prime. And I bet in his prime, he would have given Jakob a pretty good run for his money in his beer mile. And there's one thing that Hal had in his training and he's been putting in his programs for years that's gonna help me to run faster this year. So here's a look at an average training program for someone looking to build their aerobic base that I found online. And do you notice the big error in this plan? Let's contrast that with Hal Higden's advanced base building program. Do you see the big problem yet? There's no intensity, there's just easy running. How boring. So here's my next way to get faster this year, and it's completely changing my base building phase. Now, a base building phase is a time between specific training blocks, usually up to 12 weeks long. And as Hal explained it, he used base building phases to bridge the gap between seasons to make sure that his athletes were still super sharp. So here's the base building phase I did mid last year. And if you look at this graph, I've actually isolated the proportions of paces that I was running during that period so that you can get a better idea of the pace ranges that I was running in. And yes, it took me absolutely forever to make this. Leave a like if you're enjoying this breakdown. Now I'll overlay this with Hal Higden's training plan so that you can see the difference. Unlike me last year, Hal understands that you have to work on speed during the off season in your base building phase because it gets increasingly harder to develop this speed during a marathon training block when you're already really fatigued and you're basically holding on for dear life. And as Hal Higden put it, training for a race is not easy. It's hard work and it takes discipline, but it is a lot of fun. Time to get started. And all of a sudden, base building phase doesn't seem that boring, hey? Now, why do people have to spend time building their aerobic base? So I'm gonna use a triangle to explain this. Imagine that the bottom of the triangle is actually the base of our running, where we spend most of the time building our aerobic system. And as we go higher in the pyramid, the intensity of the running gets higher and higher. So here would be our easy pace, and then here would be our marathon pace. Here would be our, lactate threshold, and our 10K and our 5K pace would be around here. and then there would be a higher pace after, which is more like sprint speed and strides. So it's all represented on this triangle. Now, I remember in year 3 of school that this is called an equilateral triangle. So if we increase the size of the base, the height of the pyramid should get bigger, right? That's maths. This means that if we build our triangle's base, we have the potential to get much higher and all of our pace ranges will jump up higher. Okay, let's open our calendar again. As you can see, I scheduled 2 10-week base building blocks before my specific training blocks. And here's a look at what my training is gonna look like to build this bigger base during this phase. Now, I've kind of combined Hal Higden's training plan with Jakob's training philosophy, as I personally seem to do really well on doing multiple threshold sessions per week. And obviously there'll be a little bit of variation in this plan, but this is generally how it's gonna go. So as you can see, there's not much race specific stuff here. There's easy running, threshold, and hills. What a deadly combo. So this block is gonna help me to achieve a couple of things, and it's gonna help you achieve them too. Number one, it allows me to have some time in the year where I'm not trying to push to get to peak fitness. So it's like a nice break in hard training and injury risk. And this is so important from the health of your body, your sleep and recovery, and your hormonal health. If you're always in prep mode, it can cause a lot of systemic issues, which isn't good. Plus, doing a base phase like this allows me to maintain my running economy and all of my fast pace efficiency that I've built up over the year. We're trying to build a bigger triangle. But this kind of training is only gonna get us so far to being a strong, robust athlete. So you're gonna need this next thing that I'll be hammering this year to get faster and faster. And it's also something on Hal Hidden's training plan that we didn't even mention before. So let's have a look. His training plan is very similar to the training plan that I'm gonna be doing during my base phase, except for one thing that's done twice, on Mondays and Fridays. Strength training. Back in the day, pretty much all that I did was strength training. And when I say back in the day, I mean like 3 years ago, which is not really that long, is it? And so I obviously got quite strong, but I couldn't get up a flight of stairs without gasping for air. And fast forward a couple of years later, and I'm actually much better at running, but I'm significantly weaker. And this is absolutely something that I want to address this year. And as I mentioned earlier, Hal actually had his athletes doing it twice a week. So there's got to be some reason behind that to unlock an extra bit of free speed. And some of the best runners of all time were absolutely obsessed with strength training, like this guy, Mo Farah. Mo understood that to do better than the others, you have to do things that the others are not doing. And it's been rumored that Mo could actually deadlift 100 kilos during weeks when he was running 200 kilometers per week. That is insane strength for a 60 kilo runner running such high mileage. And as Mo put it, train hard, race easy. What a cool quote. So here's how I'll be doing it. Well, firstly, I'll be doing strength training from the first week of my base building phase all the way through until my marathon. And to do this in more of a systematic way, I come up with a couple of benchmark running exercises that I can use as testing. And rather than doing things like 1 rep maxes where the risk of injury is quite high, I'm gonna do more specific stuff for running like fatigue, and more specifically fatigue testing, where I'll do an exercise until I can't do it any longer. Because then I can calculate my relative 1 rep max from this using a calculator online. So here are the exercises that I'll be doing for the testing. The first one is a single leg squat. The second one is a single leg bridge. The third one is a single leg calf raise from a step. And finally, the front plank. So here's some data that I found online about general relative strength standards for runners. For the single leg squat, we should be able to complete 15 reps before failure. For the single leg bridge, 20 reps will be perfect to ensure that our posterior chain of muscles of the legs and hips are really strong. Now for the calf raises, this seems to be like my biggest weakness out of everything. Because the strength standard of 30 single leg calf raise reps from a step seems like quite a lot to me. I guess I got some stuff to work on in the calf department. And for the plank, I couldn't find any data suggesting particular times. So keep in mind that this benchmark is something that I've come across through clinical observations, as I'm a physio by the way. 3 minutes seems like a pretty good benchmark to me. So now that I've got this data, I'll be able to do an exercise program all the way through my base phase and into my specific phase. And I can do this test again to make sure I'm going in the right direction. And I'll probably stop the strength training 4 or so weeks prior to my goal race to make sure that I'm starting to taper and freshening the legs up. So if we pull up this calendar again, we can see lots of races, lots of base building, and lots of strength and conditioning. And all of this is gonna help me to get faster this year. Now, if you're ready to go for a deep dive on the specific training phase and the workouts included in them, then you're gonna have to watch the next video on the 10K and the half marathon training blocks that I did. So go watch them.